Ever wonder what theater of the mind is and how it differs from a map and miniature based approach to role-playing games? Ever wonder about the benefits and drawbacks of using theater of the mind, or the benefits and drawbacks of using a map-based approach? How do you decide which approach to use? Are there situations where theater of the mind is more appropriate and others where a map-based approach is better? Can you use a hybrid approach that combines elements of both theater of the mind and map-based play? Find out in today's episode. Hello and welcome to RPG PhD. I'm Dr. Ben, and today we're going to discuss the benefits and drawbacks of both theater of the mind and a map and miniatures based approach. Theater of the mind is a style of play that emphasizes verbal description and imagination over physical representation. Rather than using maps, miniatures, or other physical aids to represent the game world, players and the game master rely on descriptive language to create mental images of the game world in their minds. In this approach, players visualize the encounters and their characters' actions based on the verbal descriptions provided by the game master. And the action is largely based on what the players and the game master can imagine or communicate through language. This approach can allow for more flexible and creative gameplay, as players can attempt actions that might not be possible within the constraints of a map-based system. It is often preferred by players who enjoy a more immersive and imaginative gaming experience, as well as those who want to focus more on storytelling and role-playing rather than on tactical combat. Map and miniature is a style of play that involves using a physical representation of the game world, often in the form of grid-based maps and miniatures to represent the player characters and other elements of the game. This approach allows for a more detailed and concrete visualization of the game world, making it easier for players to understand the spatial relationships between different elements and to plan their actions accordingly. Along with RPGs, this style is commonly used in war games and other games that involve tactical combat and strategic positioning. However, it can also be used to represent other aspects of the game world, such as buildings, terrain features, and other environmental factors. While this approach can be time-consuming and requires a significant amount of physical space, it is often preferred by players who enjoy a more tactical and tactile gaming experience. First, let's discuss the pros and cons of theater of the mind style of play. First is flexibility. Theater of the mind allows for more flexibility in terms of describing scenes and locations. Instead of being constrained by physical maps and miniatures, players and the dungeon master can use their imaginations to picture the environment, which can add to the sense of immersion in the game. Simplicity. Theater of the mind does not require players to use miniatures or battle grids, which can simplify the game and make it easier to set up and run. Theater of the mind is generally a simpler approach to gaming, as it does not require the use of complex rules and mechanics related to movement, line of sight, or other tactical considerations. Which leads, of course, to faster gameplay. Since no physical elements are needed to represent the game environment, players can move and act faster, making combat and other actions more dynamic and exciting. Also, scenes can shift from place to place faster, and there is no physical setup between encounters required, which can lead to faster and even more efficient playtime. Improvisation. Theater of the mind allows for more improvisation and spontaneous decisions. This can lead to more creative and unexpected moments in the game, which can make it more exciting and engaging for players. With a map and miniatures setup, we can sometimes feel constrained to what we see, and it can limit our creativity or out-of-box thinking. Theater of the mind also allows for more fluid and spontaneous gameplay. Players can move around the game world with greater freedom, and it's often easier to improvise on the fly when using this approach. Cost-effective. Theater of the mind does not require any additional equipment or materials, making it a cost-effective way to play the game. Miniatures, terrain, and maps cost money and/or time, or both. They also require time to set up and to take down. Using your imagination is free. Accessibility. Theater of the mind is accessible to players of all skill levels and can be used in any setting, whether in person or online. Another benefit of theater of the mind is that it can be more accessible for new players. Since there's no need for a physical map or miniatures, it's easier for players to jump right into a new game and start playing. Personalization. Theater of the mind allows players to personalize their experience, as they can visualize the world and characters in their own unique way, which can lead to more meaningful and memorable gameplay. It's like when you read a book and visualize a character a certain way, and then you see that character portrayed by an actor and you have a negative reaction to it because your headcanon differs from the on-screen version. Also, having an exact miniature for your character might be difficult unless you have a vast collection of miniatures. It could be hard to find something that's exact to a particular character. Even though 3D printing has helped with this, it usually, of course, isn't free and takes time. However, there are also some drawbacks to using theater of the mind. One of the biggest challenges is keeping track of the action. Without a physical map, it can be difficult for players to visualize the game world, and it can be hard to keep track of where characters are in relation to each other. Keeping track of distances, angles, and other spatial details can really be a challenge when it's all in your head. Often, even if the DM is really great at describing what is happening and where everyone is, different players can get different ideas about what that actually means. It can be challenging for players to understand what's happening in the game world, especially in combat or tactical situations, and understanding their character's position and surroundings, which of course can lead to confusion and frustration. How many people can I hit with my spell? This becomes more of a challenge in theater of the mind style play. Players may have difficulty visualizing the game world. Theater of the mind can require more effort on the part of the players and the dungeon master to describe and visualize the game world. For some players, it can be harder to become invested in the story and in the characters when they can't see it in front of them. Ultimately, theater of the mind can be a great way to immerse players in the game world and to give them more freedom to move around. However, it can also pose some challenges for players and DMs, especially when it comes to keeping track of the action, character's location, and providing a clear visualization of the game world. So, it's important to consider the pros and cons of theater of the mind in the context of your group and the game you want to run before making a final decision. Next, let's discuss the pros and cons of a map and miniature style of play. Visibility. Maps and miniatures provide a clear and easily understood visual representation of the game environment, which can make it easier for players to understand the layout of the area and the positions of characters and monsters. This can help players to better visualize the game world and make more informed decisions, especially in combat and in movement. Spatial awareness. Maps and miniatures help players to understand the distance between characters and monsters and how that affects the game's combat mechanics and movement. Players can visualize the battlefield and the relative positions of each element on the map, making it easier for them to strategize and make tactical decisions. Organization. Maps and miniatures can help to keep the game organized, making it easier for the dungeon master to keep track of the characters, monsters, and the position of objects in the game. This can be especially beneficial for games with complex and detailed environments and multiple characters. Enhancing immersion. Maps and miniatures can also help to enhance immersion for players by providing a more tangible representation of the game world. This can make the game feel more realistic and can help players to better understand the tactical aspects of the game. Miniatures can also provide a more personalized representation of the characters and can make the game feel more engaging. Some people just have a better experience with concrete visual elements rather than auditory descriptions. Collecting and painting miniatures. Some players enjoy collecting and painting miniatures as a hobby, and a map and miniature approach allows them to incorporate this aspect of the hobby into their role-playing game experience. Consistency. Using a map and miniature approach can help ensure consistency between different sessions of the game, as the layout of the area can be clearly established and referenced later on. I find that even if I have a regular weekly game, keeping those details the same from week to week can be a challenge, even with notes. Variety. Maps and miniatures come in a variety of styles, sizes, and materials, allowing for a wide range of possibilities when it comes to creating and customizing the game world. This can help the GM to create a unique and personalized world that appeals to their players. Accessibility. Maps and miniatures can be used by players of all skill levels and be a great tool for players who are new to the game or who have difficulty visualizing the game world. They can also be useful for players who prefer a more structured and organized gaming experience. For new players, it might also help to bridge the gap between more traditional board games and role-playing games, as the use of miniatures and visuals are a staple of those type of games. Now some of the cons. Cost. Setting up a map and miniature game can be expensive as it requires purchasing miniatures, terrain pieces, or other accessories. Space. A map and miniature approach requires a lot of physical space, which can be a challenge for players with limited play area. Time consuming. Setting up a map and miniatures game can be time consuming as the DM needs to arrange the terrain and miniatures before each encounter. And then of course limitations. The physical constraints of a map and miniature approach can limit player creativity and make it difficult to attempt certain actions or strategies that would be possible in a theater of the mind style game. and it can also become a distraction. Some players may become too focused on the physical components of the game, such as moving their miniatures, and lose sight of the narrative or role-playing aspects of the game. I find that many players struggle to role-play their characters in character while simultaneously playing on a tactical style map. It usually pulls them out instead of into the narrative. Complexity. Using terrain and miniatures can add additional complexity to the game, which may be overwhelming for new players or those who prefer a more streamlined experience. Overall, map and miniature style of play is a great option for players and dungeon masters looking to create a more structured, organized, and visually engaging gaming experience for their players. It can provide a more realistic and immersive environment while also providing a visual representation of the game world, which can be useful for players and the dungeon master alike. I know that many dungeon masters use a hybrid approach where most role-playing interactions and NPC interactions are theater of the mind, and then when combat breaks out, move to a map and miniature style game. I've also used terrain to help visualize a scene for the players, but only as a reference, while the entire combat happens in theater of the mind style. I feel like a hybrid approach can give you the best of both worlds and allow the strengths and weaknesses of each playstyle to be minimized by shifting from style to style depending on the circumstances. Ultimately, of course, whether you use theater of the mind or a map-based approach is a matter of personal preference. Both have their own benefits and drawbacks, and the best approach is the one that works best for you and your players. So, gather your players, roll those dice, and let the adventure begin. I hope you enjoyed this video on theater of the mind versus map and miniature style play. Let me know your thoughts about your own group's play style in the comments below, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you next time.